Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch another video with the sun right smack in my eyes. But I'll be turning here soon, so it should lighten up a little bit. But so far it's a beautiful morning. Looks like the day's going to be pretty nice. There is some chances of rain and storms this week, so be getting ready, and just in case you know, it's that time of the year. And I've talked extensively over weeks and months and years about how, you know, I know people get irritated when I talk about the weather and I talk about that kind of, you know, storm preparedness and stuff. But you know, one of the things that I deal with a lot is storms. That's part of my volunteer job as a county coordinator, and dealing with emergencies in that way, as well as medical emergencies and other things, but storms. And you know, there's a lot of preppers in our region, and still oftentimes that storms hit and even the preppers aren't prepared. And I have found that to be true too many times over the years, that folks like you and I that, you know, have really dedicated our lives to staying self-sufficient and prepared for the end of the world, and then you get hit with a big bad storm and you don't know what to do. So you know, storm preparedness honestly should be the priority, I think, especially if you live out in the country like this. If you live out and you're a, you know, homesteader, and you're trying to, you know, be self-sufficient and all that kind of stuff, if you're not prepared for, you know, the weather and what it can do to you, then I don't know where to start with you. So that's why I tell you, because I see it firsthand all the time. I'm, you know, the one out there either chasing the storm or arriving right after it hits an area and kind of helping with recovery and stuff. So they're devastating. And this is the time of the year for tornadoes and that sort of thing, so get ready. Anyways, enough of that talk that some of you just don't like, I guess. Another oil refinery went up in smoke. This time it was in India. These have been happening strangely often. You know, I've not seen any official reporting kind of tying everything together, but it does seem to be quite strange that while there's a big war in the Middle East region that's shut down the flow of oil, we're seeing, you know, refineries blow up and burn and all this in Russia and India and the United States and Canada and Mexico, and it's just strange, but it's happening. And every time that kind of stuff happens, every time a pipeline gets bombed in the Middle East or whatever, it's just furthering the energy crisis, but also I think it's pushing us closer and closer to the Great Reset plan of getting us off of oil and getting us on this controllable green energy. And that's the big thing. I'm not opposed to, you know, solar panels and being off grid and all that kind of stuff, but what they're proposing is a way to manage that and control it a lot better, a lot more than the way it is now. You know, well, we got to switch over to green energy, but, you know, you're going to get a lot less, and you got to drive smaller vehicles that, you know, are electric and only go so far, and, you know, all this, and not the big fancy Teslas either. So anyways, I'll get off that rant, but I just thought I would note that that's happened. So anyways, let's talk about something a little bit different than just the, you know, Middle Eastern war and what's going on with it, because my goodness, it's you get dizzy after a while, because it's this flip-flop back and forth. You know, one day it's on, next day it's off, next day there's peace, next day they're bombing each other. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time Trump has said we've won the war in the last month and a half, we'd all be rich. So let's talk about something else. Palantir. Did you see what Palantir did? They released a manifesto. It's a little little strange that a company releases a manifesto, but they did because, well, they're not a normal company. They're the big tech military giant that has taken over. You know, they basically, I mean, they have a major control when it comes to Israel and the United States. That's their two honeypots. Is the Israeli military and government and the United States military and government. In fact, it was just about a week ago or so, week and a half ago, that the president was posting online of how amazing Palantir's technology is in war, and that, you know, they've been using it, you know, for the stuff that's going on. They use a lot of AI now to determine which targets to hit and how to hit them, and the accuracy, and certainly I can see the benefit in all of that when it comes to war tactics. But there's a whole lot more. They're a big spy company. Last year, Trump commissioned them to develop a massive database of U.S. citizens. And it's not that this database didn't exist, it's that the database was kind of broken up into different segments of government and stuff. And so they used AI to take all this information and put it into one centralized database with basically every bit of your information. You know, this is the company that's, you know, really moving forward with facial recognition stuff, of, you know, drones that facial recognition. I mean, they're in the cutting edge. This is also the company that's super big in the transhumanism. You know, Peter Thiel and a few others that are very closely connected to J.D. Vance. I know we're going deep down the rabbit hole. Not really that deep, but at least a little bit. And that's the big worry with J.D. Vance, is that he's just kind of a front man to bring into all this transhumanism stuff, along with, you know, folks like Elon Musk and a few others. Well, anyway, so they put out this manifesto, said all kinds of stuff about, you know, technology and future, you know, democracy and blah, blah, blah. But in that, they also called for basically a draft, I guess. They said that wars should no longer be fought by volunteers, which is what we have now. You know, no one's forcing you to go into the military. People are willingly going in there. I mean, they're not necessarily volunteers once they get there because they're paid, but they're volunteering their service. And they're saying that they should no longer be done by volunteers, that, you know, these wars should be fought equally, so that every person, you know, bears the burden and shares in the spoils of war and all this kind of stuff. Now, of course, they're not talking about these elites' children and stuff. They're not going to fight these wars, but they're pushing more and more. If you dig deep into them, they're very big into what's going on now and supporting Israel. Like I said, they're one of the military industrial giants with Israel and the United States. And so really, I guess the whole thing, the reason why I'm bringing all this up is that, you know, this current conflict and the stuff that's going on right now, it's more than just oil. It's more than just territory or expansion of Israeli territory or anything like that. When I tell you that this stuff is really bringing about this next revolution, this new world order, great reset, it's because it's pushing everything towards this transhumanism, this, you know, separation from God. I mean, that in the end, that's really what it's about. One of the founders of Palantir, I think it's Peter Thiel, he's obsessed, seemingly, with end-time prophecies and Antichrist and beast system and all this kind of stuff. And it's strange that he's always putting out these warnings about it, but yet the company that he runs is actually kind of at the forefront of doing that. It's all a mind-twisting game. But the point is that this is where we're moving. This is all of this stuff that I've told you for years. It's all connected. It's all just puzzle pieces in a big old picture. And so the stuff that's going on, whether it be in the Middle East or Venezuela or wherever, Palestinians, Gaza or Lebanon, it's all to push this big technology push, this transhumanism, which basically separates us from God. That's the whole point. It's that technology is the deity. Several years back, I talked about this, about how people had been writing about this and that were very influential in the Obama administration and in the World Economic Forum and several other places, that the new God would be technology, would be the data from the technology, and that is in fact what's happening. And we have to be aware of that, and not to get caught up too deeply into the stuff that's happening on the surface. It's important, and it affects us, and it affects our pocketbooks with oil prices and inflation, and potentially our children going off to war, and our safety and security and all these things. Yes, all those things are affected. But in the end, this is really part of the bigger plan to push us further down the road to what they call the reset. Even Trump now is calling it a reset, a big beautiful reset, but a reset, the best ever. My reset's even better. But those are all just different phrases to explain this beast system that's being built, this technocracy that it's transhumanistic, and we need to be aware of that. So as these things are growing and changing and transpiring, and technology is growing, and we're hearing all these new innovations and new this and new that, understand that it's not to necessarily improve our lives. That's the wrapping paper and the bow that they've put on the package. Oh, it will improve lives. We can cure cancer. We can end poverty. We can, yes. Oh, that's great. I mean, you'll lose your soul and all of your liberties and everything, but hey, we've got free food and free everything. You don't own anything. You can't even think without us spying on you. We've changed and altered your DNA so that you're no longer, technically considered human. I mean, that was one of the things that the, World Economic Forum has said. That in the future, the difference, the lines between humans and technology will be so blurred that you won't be able to tell the difference, right? I mean, so at what point are we no longer human enough to have a soul, right? I mean, that's their thinking. So be aware of this stuff, folks. This is the road that we're on, and it blurs all across political lines. Yes, it was all in the Biden administration, Obama administration, but it's all in the Trump administration too. Trump has pushed this stuff maybe even more so. So this is not a left versus right thing. They're all in on it, and it's happening more and more and more, and they're getting more emboldened to tell us their plan. That's why this new manifesto that came out. They know that they're so ingrained into what's going on, and they're in so much control that they can openly talk about it. They don't have to hide it. And that means that we're getting closer and closer to that end. When they're at the point that they can openly brag about what they're doing, then we're obviously getting closer to whatever their end goals are. So, if nothing else is, just about hit a deer. I mean, popped up right in front of me. Thankfully, I'm not going too fast. if none of this other stuff bothers you, or none of this other stuff makes you think that we're getting closer and closer and that you need to prep and everything, that this is the one, folks, because this is part of their end goal, you know, to further this separation from God even more. That's why we're seeing all this false Bible, false prophecy, false preachers and stuff in the White House now. Oh no, this is a godly thing. Oh, this is biblical. No, it's not. No, it's fake. It's all in the Bible. If you go in there and you read it, it talks about all this kind of stuff. So be getting yourselves ready. Keep pushing yourselves. Keep prepping. Keep getting ready, and getting your houses in order. You need to be preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.